Guys, I just bought one of my dream bikes. This is a 1986 Honda Magna V65. This is an 1100cc V4 monster of a bike. If you guys have been around the channel for a little bit, you know that I have a 3rd gen Honda Magna, which is a 750, and I love that bike. But this is kind of where it all started. This was where Honda showed the world what it could do.
The Honda V65 Magna.
But I bought this bike not running. It had dumped all the gas out. Previous owner said it ran about a year ago. So let's see if we can get this thing running. It's okay. That's actually 4 carburetors. So I got the carbs out, which was actually not as hard as I thought it was gonna be. The carb I've already found a couple issues with. So first of all, the little bracket that holds the throttle cables on is snapped, which is super weird. I don't really understand why that would snap. You can tell somebody tried to JB weld it back together, which didn't work. So I'm either gonna have to clean that up and try and find a new way to do that bracket or get it welded. Otherwise, I'm gonna pull the carbs apart and see if any of the floats are stuck, which is the issue that the guy before me had said happened. He said that he turned the fuel on and the whole thing dumped gas out, and there's no gas in the bike. So the thing I have to check is if the tanks are rusty at all, and then hopefully I can try and get this thing fired up. These bikes are commonly shifted hard between 1st and 2nd gear, and eventually that shifting fork bends a little bit and it won't hold it in 2nd gear. So my main goal is to just get this sucker running. I'm gonna pull this little cap off of this secondary tank and see if there's any rust in there. I'm gonna try and get this gas out. Oh, there's more gas than I thought. Gas was coming out so fast, so I almost ruined the vacuum pump. This gas is gross, but it's not horrible, which is good. That's a really good sign. Doesn't look horrible. So obviously the throttle cable bracket is broken on the carb, which is an issue. And I already reached out to a friend I have that does some welding, so we'll see what he can do. And then I'm gonna 3D print more float bowl gaskets, which is what I've been doing for the past 3 bikes I've done actually, and they've all been holding so far. I mean, there's a lot going on in this bike. There's a fuel pump, 2 gas tanks. They both seem clean, so that's a good sign. I've got my carb all cleaned up. I got all that JB weld off just by scraping it off, and it actually looks pretty cleaned up. About to bring it over to a buddy's house. He said he could probably weld the aluminum, so I'm actually heading to Home Depot though because I need to get some lumber. I'm paying him in lumber. It's tacked for now. Yeah, see, if you can't get, even if you can't get all the way around to the top,
Right.
that's gonna be okay. I can just seal it up later.
Right. It's a bitch to get in there.
All right, we're back. The carb's all welded up. I'm gonna clean some of it up, try and get it ready to have that vacuum back in there. And then I gotta start just cleaning these carbs up. They're so nasty. You can see some of those welds on the outside.
Look at the inside.
I think it's gonna seal up just fine. But I'm gonna grind some of that material off there. I got this thing a lot more cleaned up here. It's looking pretty good. The only issue here is right in here. This got a little damage from the heat. What I did is I ground it out a little bit, and I'm gonna take some JB Weld and kind of remake this lip here and just flatten that out on the bottom. But now it's just time for some scrubbing. I gotta get this thing clean. All these carbs are nasty. Oh, right in my eye again. I constantly am spraying stuff right in my eyes. Man, that started to burn my eye. Got my 3D printed gaskets in here. I'm excited about those. So I got this carb put back on the assembly. Got all the linkage hooked back up. Got these new O-rings in here on these fuel rails. Got brand new O-rings. And then I only cleaned this carb so far, so I've got to clean these three still. The repair down in here looking good. I still have to replace both of these sight glasses. You see that one's blown all the way out. I got this JB Weld in here. I'm gonna sand it down kind of flat, but it's just kind of filled in this little dip that was there. So I'm just gonna sand it smooth. All right, I sanded this down pretty smooth. It doesn't look perfect, but I think it's gonna work perfect, so not worried about it. So now it's time to put this back together and then chuck this carb back in the bike. Can throw these on there. I'm gonna grease these things up too, so they hopefully slide on a little easier. That's on every bike such a pain in the ass. Okay, I'm gonna try and put some fuel in the carb and see if it leaks. So I'm halfway through setting up this little temporary tank to test out to see if the carbs work. And I remember I never synced the carbs. I knew, that's why I didn't even tighten this down. I knew something was gonna happen. And I'm just gonna fill the carbs with gas on the bench. I can't wait for the first bike that I rebuild that I don't have to take the carbs back out 100 times. But today's not the day. Kind of visually synced up, so now what I'm gonna do is adjust this one. So I'm getting just a little bit of drag with this piece of wire, and then try and get the exact same drag on all of them. So that's how I bench sync these carbs. It's always worked out well enough for me. The proper way to do it is to take vacuum lines, hook them all up, and use gauges to try and get the exact amount of vacuum in each carb. But I just sync up the throttle plates and it works for me. This one is leaking. All of them are leaking. They're all leaking.
Hello, this is Alex.
Hey Alex, what's going on? This is Tyler. I got, you sent me a carb spring a couple weeks ago, and now I'm working on a new Magna. It's a V65, a 1986, and I need new float valves and seats. So do you have any of those?
Yes.
I mean, they're all pouring out gas, so that's why the guy sold it to me as not running. He said the valves were stuck, but they don't seem to be stuck. They're just all leaking past. I don't know if it's normal to see all 4 of them fail, but
Maybe they've all been failed for a very long time. I mean, if they're all original, then yeah. Yeah.
All right.
If you come up with anything else, just let me know, because like I've got bodies and bowls and stuff. So
okay, cool.
if you come up short on something, let me know.
All right, I appreciate it, Alex.
Yeah, appreciate your business. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Bye. So I gotta send him an email, and then hopefully we'll get the parts we need and the bike will go back together. So I'll see you when the parts come in, I guess. It has been probably a month and a half since that last clip. It took a long time to get these parts in. I do have them now. I accidentally shipped them to a address I don't live at anymore. They got returned. It was a whole thing. Doesn't matter. So I'm gonna crack these parts open. These are pretty cool. I was wondering what he was gonna send me, and they are keister made in Japan, which is better than the made in China stuff I was looking at online. I'm gonna throw them in. Check it out, these are supposed to bounce like that. This one doesn't. All right, I'm gonna put the rest of these in and then we'll check for leaks. Got some fresh gasoline here. I'm gonna do another bench test on this just to see if it's leaking. It is leaking from the float bowl gaskets. It's kind of hard to tell, but I don't see any gas coming out of the intakes. They didn't get much gas in them before they started flowing out of the float bowls, so I'll go print some more of those gaskets a little bit thicker, like I said, and we'll throw those on and see what happens. I got some new float bowl gaskets. They got some strings on them, but those, we'll pull those off and these should work. Okay, I put the new float bowl gaskets in and I sprayed down the bike again. Finally starting to look a little bit clean. I'm gonna load this thing up with gas again, see what happens. Got one still leaking. That's not the float bowl. I've been sitting here replacing these float bowls and putting RVT and stuff in there, but it's actually that little tube there that's leaking. That's why both of those carbs are leaking, so I have to put new O-rings in that tube. All right, this is what I'm talking about. These are basically pipes. Vents and the fuel is all connected between these carb bodies, and these little O-rings on them just are super crusted out. So this one's not actually leaking. These two middle ones are leaking. So I have to take this carb body off too, and I'll put new O-rings on them. I already had to put new O-rings on the bottom ones. I took that carb body off anyway, so I just replaced the O-rings. That's why they're leaking. I'm gonna get that done. All right, it's back together. I'm gonna have to sync it again, but I just wanna see if it holds gas. This is like the 9th time I've filled it up with gas. Looks like it's not leaking. All right, the carb's in, there's gas in the carb, airbox is on. I'm gonna try and start this thing. I'm kind of nervous and freaking out, but let's see what happens. Oh! Let's throw this battery on a charger. But that's a success right there. I'm gonna put the tank back on and see if it pumps fuel. So we're under $1,000 for a running V65. It's not running perfect. I'll get that sorted, but it is running. This thing's been charging for a couple hours. I'm gonna throw the helmet on and try and see if this thing moves under its own power. I think part of the reason it was running so weird is because of the just absolutely horrible gasoline that's left over in the system. So I put a little bit more good gas in
and I want to go ride it a little bit and see if I can get it to start calming down a little bit. It was charging. I don't know if it's going to start very easily. Yeah, I think my idle might be high too. Oh my gosh. Rear brake kind of works. Front brake kind of works. Getting some like backfiring sounds. This bike feels weird. It's actually moving though. Either the handlebars are bent. I think the handlebars are bent, like pretty bent. It's funny, you can't really notice that until you get out on the road a little bit. Whoa! Oh, she's aggressive. Ooh, that front brake's not doing much. I think it might have fork oil in it. The forks need to be cleaned desperately. Whoa, she's twitchy compared to the other one. Little stick in second gear. I gotta say, I think this bike weighs like 600 pounds. It does not feel like it weighs 600 pounds. It feels really light. It's got this short rake on the front end. It's really pulling against me on the turns there. Oh, it's fast. Oh, and this is with that crappy gas. How does that... Oh, that back brake will lock up. There's no locking that front one up. Oh, you guys have no idea how excited I am. Oh, it's like sliding the tire. Yes. '86 Honda Magna V65. That's power right there, baby. Yes.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. I've got some good plans for this bike, so make sure you subscribe and stay tuned. And like this video if you like the Magna stuff. This bike is going to be hard for me to get rid of, which that is the original plan, was to flip it, so I've got some ideas for this bike. And I did edit out a decent amount of just random crap I had to do working on this bike, trying to get this video down a little bit shorter. Thank you so much for watching, and look forward to some more Honda Magna V65 videos in the future.